Well, hello everybody and welcome back to Below the 38 Football Adventures in South Korea. I'm Andrew. This is the K-League 2 preview show of the Children's Day weekend fixtures. Mike is on the line. Hello, Mike.
How you doing?
Children's Day, does it mean anything to you? I know you have a child, but do these matches carry any extra significance?
I'd say no, not in terms of football, of course. But yeah, Children's Day, it's a nice holiday in terms of the sentiment, I guess. So, fair play. But I have a feeling that we might be looking at lower attendances with this holiday because of the nature of what it is, right? It's supposed to be a family time, maybe not go into the football time, unless you want to call football a family affair here. But not under this UV at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But anyway.
So, if you're unfamiliar, we have Friday off work because it's Labor Day, and then Tuesday is Children's Day. A lot of places also have the Monday off work. It's not what they call like a red day. It's not an official bank holiday, but there's the opportunity to have a 5-day weekend basically for a lot of people. Despite that, though, one of the things it does bother me about these long-ish weekends is that every game is on Sunday. Like Friday's a day off. I thought it might have been a good opportunity to maybe put a couple of games on a Friday evening, especially when you look at the upcoming fixtures for round 10. A lot of them are teams playing against near neighbours, and so there's not that much travel that's required. For example, and we're going to get onto this later, the Suwon Derby is taking place for the very first time in K-League 2. That's on this coming Sunday. I think that'd be a great match to have on Friday night. But anyway, all the matches are taking place on Sunday, May the 3rd, between 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock. I think it's a massive shame that they haven't staggered these fixtures throughout the weekend. But I always feel like if we had the run of this, it might have made things just a little bit better. I don't know, but certainly a good bit different. So let's have a look at these fixtures then, shall we? Remember, you can follow us at Below the 38 on Twitter, Instagram, and here on our YouTube page. We have a weekend review from the weekend just gone by. Mike was at Ansan Greeners versus John Dragons. Luke was at Suwon FC versus Gimpo. And I gave a high five to Gwangju after Anyang's comfortable victory at the World Cup Stadium on Sunday. So, back to K-League 2. It starts at 2 o'clock with 3 games on Sunday. Daegu, who are in exactly mid-table, unbelievably in K-League 2. There are 8 teams above them and 8 teams below them. They take on Gyeongnam, who are having an awful season, but they did win their most recent match. Hwasong against world beaters, Ansan Greeners, followed by a big one, Seoul E-Land versus Gimpo. Mike, these 3 games all take place at the same time on Saturday. Which one do you want to lead off with?
Let's just go with the problem team Daegu, because they had a week off, didn't they? And they might have been thinking Gyeongnam struggling, this will be not too bad, but Gyeongnam actually came away with a huge win last weekend. So I think Daegu might be quite worried here because they're starting this weekend. The level on points of Ansan, and they're outside the playoffs.
Yeah, it's extraordinary where they found themselves at this point of the season. And they need to win. Daegu need to win games. Gyeongnam season is effectively over. They just need to avoid finishing 17th. And, even had they not won the most recent weekend, you still would have thought they were good enough to avoid the embarrassment of finishing 17th out of 17 in K-League 2. So Daegu, who are in 9th, take on Gyeongnam FC. There was a time in the not too distant past when that would have been a game in K-League 1. It isn't anymore. One match that's never taken place in K-League 1 is Hwasong versus Ansan Greeners. It's a fixture that's unlikely to ever take place in K-League 1 as well. However, both teams go into this game on the back of 3 points last weekend. I don't know how often we've said that so far this year.
No, may we hear that again. I mean, this one's hard to call, but you have to remember, if there is a winner here, then they may well go up into the playoffs themselves. So it's not an insignificant game. In that, I think this will be a hard one for Ansan to follow up with another 3 points, frankly speaking. I can unfortunately see Hwasong winning that one. But the main concern I have here is this: might this be the lowest K2 attendance we've seen so far this season?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. It's because it's the weekend that's in it. Yeah, interesting point. I think if this game maybe was at another time, I don't know. It's a good question though. I'd be surprised, but let's keep an eye out for that. Hwasong, by the way, have played 9, won 3, lost 3, drawn 3, scored 10, conceded 10. Every now and again, there's a team in K League 1 or K League 2 has a record just like that. Hwasong are in 8th, Ansan Greeners are in 10th. Ansan will go above Hwasong with the win at the Hwasong Stadium. Again, are you going to that?
I'm targeting it, certainly.
Yeah. Hopefully he goes, because then he can tell you just how far away from the pitch he is at the Hwasong Stadium. It's not a great place to go watch football.
Certainly, if you're in the away end, they do have the small forest that they've planted before you get to the outer part of the running track.
Hwasong Stadium, 2:00 on Saturday. Same time, a big one, a huge game. Seoul E-Land on the back of a surprise defeat at home to Hwasong at the weekend. They take on Gimpo. Gimpo are still on the road for all of their matches. This would be their 9th straight game away from Salta Stadium. But like we said at the beginning of the season, if they can stay in the playoff hunt, by the time they move back home, they'll have a bunch of fixtures throughout the summer and into autumn. They'll put themselves into a really good position. They are currently 5th. They have 13 points, 3 wins, 4 draws, and just a solitary loss so far. This should be a cracker.
Should be. Eland must bounce back if they want to continue, if they want to have any chance of those automatic playoff positions. I think, I'll say, the big nephews alluded to the interesting story of Gimpo is if they feel more comfortable with their home record this season. I mean, home doesn't really seem to make that much of a difference in this league, to be honest. It's very much more, I think, the quality of the squad rather than where you're playing your matches. But if Gimpo do feel they're boosted at home, they're going to end the season probably picking up even more points than they have been so far. So I would be very, very concerned if Daegu and Suwon FC actually with Gimpo's performance. So at the end of the season, but this is an intriguing one, mostly because it's a good chance to see if Eland's form is going to now take a big dip, and if Gimpo, again, if they really are going to carry on continuing the fairly decent, if not fantastic form so far this season. Yeah, it's should be I'm going to say maybe one of the picks at the round anyway, because we'll get onto the other one later.
The next 4 matches, I think it's fair to say that none of these 4 matches are going to feature in the pick of the weekend. They're all a derby of some sort. Now, Derby's doing a lot of some sort. I think it's doing a lot of heavy lifting here, but let's see if we can make sense of this. They're all at 4:30. As I said, they're all on Sunday. Cheonan City FC versus Cheongnam Asan. That is the KTX derby. Cheonan City are the home team there. Gimhae versus Busan. Gimhae is basically a suburb of Busan. Gimhae haven't picked up a win so far in the season. And Busan are top, so that's 17th versus 1st. Paju Frontier versus Cheongju. This is a major stretch, but both teams have an English player in their squad, so we're calling that the English derby between Paju and Cheongju. And then Yongin, who picked up their first win of the season, taking on Songnam. Looked like Songnam were putting themselves in the playoff hunt not too long ago, but their form is dodgy, sticky. I mean, they lost to Ansan Greeners, I think, recently. So, go on. If you had to pick one of those as the fixture most look out for, do you think... I might as well just tee up straight away. Do you think Busan's confidence will take a hit from their late loss in Suwon, or do you expect them to bounce back and absolutely trash Gimhae?
I think if there was any team they'd want to play, right now, after that one, it's probably Gimhae, isn't it? So I think it's great timing in the fixture list for them to bounce back. I would expect them to. A lot of teams have put 4 past Gimhae. You know, if we talk about bottom of the league, Gwangju, they concede 5, while Gimhae concede 4. And I'd imagine Busan. This is probably Gimhae's most difficult fixture so far, to be honest. A very angry Busan. The only caveat there is how deflated might Busan be, but they should take heart in that from that game. To be honest, they're still top of the league on goals scored, so they're going into this game top of the league, and they can put some real pressure on the Blue Wings by winning it.
Speaking of the Blue Wings, they make their shortest journey of the season. It's 3.3 kilometers from the north gate of the Suwon World Cup Stadium to Castle Park, the home of Suwon FC. That used to be the Blue Wings' home stadium as well. These two sides have only ever met before in K-League 1, but following Suwon's failed promotion and Suwon FC's relegation from K-League 1 last winter, they will meet for the very first time in K-League 2. There's going to be a big crowd at this game. It doesn't help that it's at 7 o'clock on a Sunday, when they could probably have played this game at any other point of the weekend and guaranteed a bigger crowd. But I don't see why this is not 7 o'clock on Friday. But anyway, here we go. Game of the weekend, one of the two. Is this the one that you were alluding to earlier on?
Yes, but the reason I think E-Land Gimpo might be a better game is I know Suwon came out swinging this season, or Suwon FC, but I actually see this as a fairly nailed on away win, to be honest. The Blue Wings have just come out of probably one of their most difficult games of the season with a win, and they finally they scored 3 goals, which has not really been the thing too much this season. They're on 13 out of 9, but Suwon FC have been scoring a lot, but the Blue Wings have a mean defence. I know Busan finally cracked it, but they are the top scoring team. But Suwon FC concede a lot, and that'll be music to Blue Wings' ears. I think this could be more one-sided than the league table might suggest.
I wonder how many people in the blue only half, not the blue and red half of Suwon, agree with that. I just remember when these two sides were playing against each other in K-League 1, the Blue Wings seem to have an awful record against Suwon FC. So I just had a quick look there. So early November, they won. They were down to 10 men. I forget the name of the Japanese midfielder, but he got sent off anyway. But they still went on to win that game 3-2, which meant that they avoided the prospect of being relegated at Castle Park. But they lost the previous 3 matches against Suwon FC. Now, of course, this stuff doesn't matter. Now, obviously, history is important. However, these clubs are completely different from the ones who faced each other. Back in 2022, Suwon FC won 3-0 and 4-2 against the Blue Wings. Managements have changed, players have changed, and you get the feeling there's a different vibe now in Big Bird than there is in Castle Park. But yeah, that should be a cracker. Again, as we said, I see no reason whatsoever why this game should be on 7 o'clock on a Sunday. But K-League just doing K-League things, or the broadcasters anyway, doing K-League broadcasting things with that. So they're the fixtures that are coming up. We will review these next weekend. There are no midweek fixtures next week, unlike in K-League 1. So Mike and I will have plenty of time to sift through the carnage of another round 10 of K-League 2 action. Let's move on to a couple of... We should, yes.
Before we move on, John, I'm the one sitting this round out, right? And if it's far too much of an if, but let's just imagine that Gimhae beat Busan. Jeonnam will be level on points with Gimhae. And in fact, if Gimhae win by 6 goals, then Jeonnam will be bottom. Mathematically, it's possible.
Jeonnam, I believe, we're recording this on Monday, straight after the weekend there was. I think they just made a managerial change. There's no real time to check up on that quickly, but yeah, they're in deep trouble at the moment. By the way, May 23rd at 4:30 p.m. in Gwanyang, it's Jeonnam Dragons versus Gimhae FC. So if the positions stay roughly as they are leading up to that fixture, that could be one that will feature highly on our preview show towards the end of May. Mike's mystery box. He's got a special name for this. We'll get onto that in a second. But talking point, new team check-in. We previewed them. We've kind of profiled all 3 new teams at the start of the season. So with 9 rounds gone, Paju Frontier are 6th. I think it's come as a bit of a surprise that they've started the season so well. But it's also more remarkable that they threw away a 2-1 lead against Gyeongnam, who are down at the bottom of the table, and went on to lose the game at home 3-2. Had Paju held on to the 2-1 lead, they'd be up to 4th spot at the moment, ahead of Suwon FC in the table. It's been a really good start to the season for them. They're one of, they're the only team in K-League 2, and it's very rare that you find a team in Korean football that hasn't drawn a match at this point of the season. So they've won 4, lost 5 out of their 9, scored 14, conceded 14, points 12, goal difference of 0. So yeah, very good start for them. Yongin, big weekend for them. I saw the celebrations in the changing rooms after the match, the obligatory, everybody's happy, sitting on the floor, the changing room photograph, because they've won their first match of the season, having had 3 draws and 4 defeats to this point. So they are 15th. They go above Jeonnam Dragons, who dropped down to 16th, 6 points from their 8 matches. They do have a game in hand on Paju. And finally, Gimhae, bottom of the table, no wins, 2 draws, 6 defeats, scored 6, conceded 20, a goal difference of -14. They did draw 2 games in a row. Things were looking a little bit better for them, but they picked up another loss at the weekend. Any early thoughts on how the 3 brand new sides are doing so far?
You have to remember, Paju are about to play Cheongju, who are winless at home, right? So if they do win that, they could be looking at being in 4th place by the end of the weekend, especially with Suwon playing the Blue Wings, etc. Gimpo play E-Land. If both of those teams lose, they're going to be 4th, basically, which is really a surprise. And of course, if they hadn't thrown away that lead against Gyeongnam, then my word, they really would be in the mix, wouldn't they? I do feel, obviously, Yongin battering Gimhae. I do feel very sorry for Gimhae there, to be honest, because they've got 18 years of history in, for the National League, the K3, etc. And then they've got a team with 2 months history, and they get smashed by them. And Gimhae, I said, they won the K3 last season. They may feel that they earned their place legitimately. So, and that's another talking point when we find out just what is going to happen with the K-League 2 next season. We'll talk about that later on in the season. But Gimhae, it's hard to judge between K3 and K2. Gimhae have come up and been destroyed continuously this season. But on the other hand, Songnam went to Siheung last season and did not have a good time there, did they? So it looks like Siheung would beat Gimhae in the playoff at the moment, and that's worrying news. Siheung travelled to mid-table Changwon at the weekend, so you can expect them to carry on. And here's something we don't usually get to say. Jeonbuk are bottom of the league. But what league are we talking about?
Unfortunately, they're not the one that really matters. But that weekend, I mentioned it before, the 23rd of May, when Gimhae travelled to Gwangyang to take on Jeonnam. Paju Frontier, that weekend, they'll preview it close to the time, but they will have their closest derby, the rivalry, I don't know what you call it, a fixture that would have taken place in K3 in the past, Paju Frontier versus Gimpo FC. A derby, a game of football that's incredibly far north in mainland South Korea. But anyway, yeah, so opportunities for Gimhae to pick up some points. They do go to Gyeongnam in the coming weeks. But does all this lead you to believe that expansion was a mistake, or are you willing to give it more time?
No, I wouldn't say expansion is. I would say one thing already, which is far better, that every home game is more important now. When there was a home game and you know that there would be a 50% chance you'd play that team again later in the season, I think it really undermined the point of each game. It's one thing I'm not a fan of in the K1 is that the league splits, and it just feels a little disingenuous to finding out which teams can go the course of a season, because some teams get second chances at home, etc. So it creates a big imbalance. I really like that. I'd be happy to see it expanded further to 20, to be honest. The nature of the expansion is the talking point, though. Did it just add teams in, or did it make it a true truly on merit. And I said, if Gimhae get relegated but a team is added, then we've got a major ethical issue with the K-League too. But so far, every weekend is a new opponent. I'm just trying to think back to when it was only 10 teams.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago.
Quality, no, it wasn't. I would say the quality was much better, to be honest,
Yeah.
with 10 teams. But from a match-going fan perspective, I think it's a lot more fun this season. There's more variety.
Cool. I think especially with, variety, I think definitely applies to Gimhae, another team down south is good. And then also Paju, like it's not often that you get to cross the Han River to go watch a game of football. Especially if you're not going to watch one at the Suwon World Cup Stadium. Yongin, on the other hand, is a trip I just don't think I need to. I don't think I need to make again. Anyway, last segment on this particular show, I have down in our Google Doc for this Mike's mystery box, but I think he wants to give. I think he wants to give it another name.
Well, let's just hold your horses, because first up in the mystery box, let's just note that the WK League has a few fixtures, but none too big. But I'm going to pick the Yongin hosting Seoul, or the Sangwoo team hosting Seoul is the pick it around, but that looks like it's going to be all three teams win. So I introduced this on last week's preview show, and over the years I've just collected trinkets and things from stadiums over 3 decades of Korean football. There's an awful lot of lower league stuff. There's a lot of different team stuff in there. So I think it's really sad that this stuff gets confined to history, and in some cases is lost forever, because some, especially when you go back to the National League days and things like that, some of the online records aren't really all that, or a little misleading sometimes. So anyway, what I'd like to do is, once again, I want to find out, as we take a look at what item is coming from inside the box. So we're going to go with, we had a lovely FC Seoul program last week, but this time we're going to go for some actual authentic match memorabilia. Now, it absolutely stinks, actually, and the colour is horrific, but this was gifted to me at the very end of the 2012 National League season, the very last match by the essentially the Hallelujah franchise, but they were known as Ansan HFC by this point. And here we have a genuine match-used corner flag.
Why does it stink? I mean, it was only
goods.
Why would that stink? I mean, like, is it signed? Why have you not watched this, or you just don't want to? Or
no, I've never watched it. It's turned yellow. It wasn't yellow when I received it. I think it's made of a certain material that doesn't do well with long term and just oxygen exposure. But it's heavily stained, and I'm going to be frank, I think it's probably just spent an entire year sat on the corner flag, and no one ever took it down until the end of the season. So, it's still got, I could put it on a flagpole, I suppose. But you had the National League sponsor there, Shinhan Eunhaeng. You know how banks like to sponsor leagues in Korea, of course. But there it is, glorious. And notice, and this is an interesting point, because I think you could do a whole special on just how central Dongdaemun is to Korean football history. This is Ansan HFC, but take a little look at what's on the corner flag there. You'll see it says 1980. Yeah. They directly associated themselves with the Emmanuel franchise. So a little bit of interesting history, because the Emmanuel franchise is finally met its true death up in Goyang eventually. So there you have it, a 2012 match used corner flag from the National League.
Can we have a look at the crest again for a second? Just keep it on the camera. So this is AS Ansan Hallelujah FC, and the red, I presume the blue is the ocean, and
perhaps the actual H was just turned into an H due to, as I understood it, to continue playing in that stadium, they had to remove the religious iconography from both the name and also the emblem. So the emblem was turned into this eagle, which I guess foreshadowed the coming of Ansan, or the police team to Ansan, who of course would use an eagle as the symbol before they then also changed their name. as well.
Yeah. I love the black and white football in the middle. It's funny how many crests around the world, professional football clubs, they always have the black and white football in the middle. And how often do you ever watch a game of football on television and people are using a black and white football? It's like we just don't see it anymore. There it is. Yeah, it's like maybe when you were 8 or 9 years old and you could buy a cheap one and bring it to the beach, it always looked like that. But you never see a football that looks like that. But still, all over the world, if you see a football in the crest, I'd say 99 times out of 100, it's a black and white football that looks just like that.
Indeed. So we'll see what else is in the box, hopefully next week.
Stay tuned for that. Below the 38, Football and Adventures in South Korea. I'm Andrew, Mike with the smelly corner flag. We will be back next week. Enjoy the weekend. If you're going to watch K-League 2 football this weekend, have a great weekend. There's 2 big games on, as we said. One in Mukdong, Seoul E-Land versus Gimpo. The other one at Castle Park, 7 o'clock on Sunday. Suwon FC versus the Suwon Blue Wings, and plenty of other games in between all of those. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll talk to you next week. Goodbye.